Welcome to the Friends of Fantasy Benefits Baseball Podcast. I'm Justin Mason, lead fantasy writer and analyst of Friends of Fantasy Benefits. Joining me on this episode is my boy, Mike Werner. Mike, how you doing, my friend?
Oh my goodness, I'm ecstatic to be talking to you and then also talking Rays. I'm just overall pretty excited.
Remind everybody where you can reach on social media and talk about what you do.
At Mike Werner, FWFB, and I'm pretty much like semi-retired out of the content baseball game. So people still holler at me, which is kind of crazy, but I do I'll still answer questions and stuff. But yeah, life is taking a turn really to mainly just working a day job and family, and nobody really told me, but it takes up a lot of time. So
That it does. I'll try to rope you back into some more content here at FWFB. Mike's a co-owner here at the site and podcast, so definitely give him a follow on Twitter at Mike Werner FWFB. You can follow me at Justin Mason FWFB. Keep giving those 5-star reviews, really helping us out. Get you entered in to win a free RotoWare shirt. Going to be giving away one each month until the start of the season. I appreciate, I think, 19 reviews so far, maybe even 20 at this point this month. So really appreciate it. We're going to move quick today because unfortunately I've got a little bit of a hard cap, so we'll jump right in. Let's talk about Christian Bethancourt, who had kind of a surprise season out of nowhere last year. Are you drafting him in fantasy this year?
I mean, as a second catcher in mixed leagues, I definitely think he's a interesting option. I don't think he's going to end up being somebody that we can pinpoint as like a top tier guy that we're going to hang our hat on or anything, but made some interesting power upticks in the second half last year. I think that he is more of like a league average type power guy, but contact wise doesn't kill you from the catcher position. I don't think he's like I said, I don't think he's an exciting option, but he ended up with double-digit home runs last year that I think will play and will continue. His plate skills were awful in the second half, but he did hit a few more home runs. So it's kind of he's somebody that's not going to really kill you in batting average, but also kind of be mediocre in power. But I think will be a viable second option. I think he'll play as well. That's kind of a bigger thing. So.
Yeah, I think he's fine, like low end C2. The problem is catcher's so deep this year; it's easy to kind of skip over him in the ranks. Do we care about Francisco Mejia at all?
I mean, I care about him spiritually.
Yeah,
as like just I mean, I hope it all comes together. There is stretches where he actually does look like he will be someone that can hit for a decent batting average. He never stops swinging. I mean, I don't want to go long. It's just he never stops swinging. At some point he has to just get more patient. He is only going to be going into his 27-year-old season. There's been a lot of injuries and different things, so I could see him put it together, but just a stash, keep your eye on guy. That's it.
All right. At first base, are they gonna give Jonathan Aranda a real shot to like win the job and play regularly?
I think there's a chance that they do, just based on kind of necessity at this point. Their offseason really hasn't, they haven't made a ton of additions here, so they're kind of keeping a lot of what they came into last year with. Mind you, they did go through so many injuries and there was so much bad luck. There was just a necessity to play certain guys last season, but no more G-Man Choi. That should kind of pave the way. I think they're going to give him a look in spring. So, somebody that's going to be basically free in drafts. I definitely think it's worth just watching, somebody that I think that, it has really awesome plate skills. At his peak could be like a double-digit, home run guy with a little bit of speed and stuff, and obviously be a pretty decent batting average guy as well. He's got tremendous versatility too. I definitely would just keep my eye on it. If it seems like he could get a role, like a fairly good role in spring, then I would probably pounce, because especially in AL only formats, because he's somebody that can kind of help you a little bit everywhere, and he's versatile, so it'll be a positional flexibility as well.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's all about what kind of role does he have, and that's the hard part on the Rays, because they're so platoon heavy and matchup dependent. I don't think he's got like a massive carrying tool in fantasy either, right? He doesn't have massive power. His carrying tool is his hit tool, which is great because I think it gives him an opportunity to play. But he's a guy that I like, but I worry about the roster spot. Brandon Lowe is a guy I've always loved, coming off of a season kind of marred by injury in which he only played 32 games. Reports so far are good. that he should be ready for opening day and be fine, are you drafting Brandon Lowe?
I am. So last year, going into the season, his power just looked tremendous, and he has had stretches where he's seemingly figured it out against left-handed pitching, which I mean by figure it out, meaning that he's not hitting like 212 like he did last year in the first half, or just in general, has had long stretches of just ineffectiveness versus lefties. He was showing real signs in the second half of 2021 that maybe he was starting to at least be viable against lefties and maybe have a role that would be best suited to be against both lefties and righties in general. Injuries played a role last season. I still believe in the power. That has never been in question for me. I think that he's only 28 years old still. He is a 40 home run upside guy who can steal double-digit bases. He hasn't done that yet in a full season in his career, and the Rays won't, give him the green light that much to do so. But I wouldn't be shocked at all. He's going to be a full-time player, barring health. And right now, his ADP at 170. I get the health risks and all that stuff, but this is a guy going into last season being a top 50 pick easily. I think it was more in the top 40 range. I could be kind of wrong on that off the top of my head, but it was in that range. And to get a discount that's 60% less than last season is a massive discount. I'm a big fan of Lowe, and I think that he rights the ship this year.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, and I think I misspoke. He played in 65 games last year prior to things getting shut down because of injury, and it's all about injury with him, right? If he's healthy, like I think he's a 30+ home run hitter with 6-7 stolen bases, plays every day, even on kind of the platoon happy Rays. I love Brandon Lowe. I'm a big fan, and this price is just too good to pass up. I'll be trying to get as many shares as I can early before he starts hitting bombs in spring training. Wonder if Franco was like the hypiest of hype players last year. I was fading him because of the price, but now I feel like the price has come down enough where he's actually kind of a value. Where are you at on Wander Franco?
You've always had like the mantra, sometimes guys are just better real life players than they are fantasy players. Franco is a, defensive wizard. We didn't have him a lot of the year last season. And, I'm starting to get mildly, the biggest worries about him, he has missed time in the last two seasons, each of the last two seasons. It wasn't a significant amount of time in 2021, but last year was it just was a constant rehab process and him trying to get back, and he just never really got into the full swing of things. Despite that, he still in 300-ish at bats, had 6 home runs, 8 steals, hit almost 280. The elite contact and plate skills are there. It's obvious. I don't think that ever goes away. I think he's a 300 hitter automatically, barring health, and if he stays healthy this year, he's going to be a full-time player. He's going to hit 300. I am certain that he's going to end up having somewhere at least, 20 stolen bases. I think that's kind of a fair, projection on him. I do worry a little bit about the power long-term. I don't think he's a 15 home run hitter yet. I think he's more of like a 10 to 12 guy. And I'm looking at some projections too. They're pretty low on speed. I think people are thinking that he's not as fast as he is. Like 12 steals, I think, is underselling what he can do on the base pass. And they give him the green light as well. So I think closer to 20 steals in a full year. But long story short, I would buy if it's looking like he's just inside the top 100. I think for batting average and kind of just contributions in multiple categories alone, that he's worth that price. But I am a little bit reluctant on the power. I'm a little bit reluctant on the health as of right now. But I do think that he's somebody that the Rays invested in. He has a lot of pride, and I think he knows that he really needs to have a year in the majors that he just kind of get for lack of being nasty. He just kind of takes his dick out and puts it on the table, and I think this will be the year.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think the projections are a little bit light on the speed. I think 15 stolen bases is probably around where I project him for. I don't have my projections up in front of me at the moment, but maybe like 12 home runs or 10 to 12 home runs, 15 stolen bases, but a 300 batting average, I agree, and a bunch of runs scored.
Yes.
Considering he's going to be batting, probably in the 2-hole on that Rays team. So, I think Franco went from being overvalued last year to becoming undervalued this year. A guy that I think is also undervalued, it's probably because he just can't seem to raise that launch angle, is Yandy Diaz. The dude, if he could just, maybe take a little bit of that muscle out of his arm so he could raise that launch angle a little bit, could be just an absolute monster. Are you drafting Yandy Diaz?
And so I feel like Yandy Diaz is, raising his launch angle is like a myth, like somebody catching a Yeti or Bigfoot or something. Like it's we'll eventually find him. It might not be for a while, but Diaz is the same as he's been, which is, somebody that is viable in AL only formats. He's going to play the majority of the time. He has a really good contact rate. Doesn't usually pertain to a great batting average. Last year, he hit almost 300, which is great. And he had, arguably his most valuable year in 2022. Only 9 home runs though, 71 runs scored and 57 RBI. He is what he is. I think he is a corner in a AL only format. If you're playing in like 20 teamers, he's somebody that you can use in an infield spot as well. But there's not much more upside here. This is kind of what he is. I think if he were to hit double-digit home runs, that's great. That's kind of where he was last year anyways. But good batting average, maybe double-digit home runs, some counting stats, and that's about it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Issac Paredes, when he plays, he can flash some real power. The problem is the playing time. Is he going to get a bigger role this year to kind of show off what he can do?
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited about Paredes. He showed me some real signs last year just at various points. It was very inconsistent. He had a couple months in there, if you take out June, and this is not the way we do things, but if you take out June, you're talking, he had 8 home runs with a 270 average in the month of June. The rest of the months, 190 average in July, 160 average in September. Pretty much whenever he was able to, be consistent in terms of making contact, that's when you saw him be successful. There is something to be said for, he hasn't even eclipsed, 500, about 500 at bats so far in the major leagues between 3 years. His first call up was in 2020, and that was obviously kind of a tumultuous time as well. Only 70 at bats in the majors in 2021. So this is somebody that, received the most playing time he's ever had in the majors last year. The Rays valued Austin Meadows. To trade Meadows for Paredes, that means that they definitely see things in him that they are intrigued by and they think that they can improve on. And I do too. He hit 20 home runs last year. That's not nothing, and 330 at bats. And that comes with, mind you, his expected power, was a little bit less than that, especially when you look at his contact rate and stuff. But he walks, he has pop at his bat. I think he is going to play this year. I would say, minimum, he's somebody that's going to play 3/4 of the games. I'd say he's going to be on the, he might not be on the opening day, like starting lineup, but he's going to play 100% against lefties, and he's, likely going to play at least half the time against righties. So I'm buying. I bet, he's like in the 400s in ADP. I would take him even 15 teamers as a dart throw, because I think that he has the capability of hitting 30+ homers.
Yeah, I'm a big Paredes fan and have been for a long time. I just worry about the playing time. And I may be just a little bit low on my projections on him. Probably going to need to bump him up a little bit. We have Taylor Walls, Vidal Brujan. Either of them worth drafting in fantasy. I'm a long time Brujan apologist, and at some point he's got to let go.
God damn it. Walls, no. He never has been. That was what kind of played the Rays last year from just an overall baseball sense. Brujan and Walls received their chances last year. Same thing with others that we'll talk about, but Brujan, I'm still going to throw a dart throw on. I know I am. I'm saying I'm not, but I definitely will. I know myself. So, I'm intrigued by the speed and, him being able to have, just all these tools, but he looked flat out fucking lost last year. So I would agree with anybody kind of just throwing him away, but I will say, I still, hold out some hope, but yeah, for drafting purposes, if you're being tactical, no.
Yeah. All right. Let's move into the outfield. Randy Arozarena never quite lived up to that one postseason where he just went absolutely insane, but of course he didn't. Is there another level to Randy Arozarena, or is what we see is what we get? Because I'm not saying it's bad. I love what we get, but I always feel like there's gonna be another level.
I don't think there is another level. I think you saw the other level last year. Yeah. For him to eclipse the 30 steal mark is pretty remarkable, honestly. And, it hasn't really showed its head, but he's never been the most durable player either. I think, this year is a year I definitely will be fading him. Not to say that I don't value what he does. I think last year he was going at a pretty good bargain, and he really, ended up being just a stud for fantasy. I mean, he was probably, when it was all said and done, a top 40-ish player, definitely a top 25, 30 hitter. So, I mean, I think that overall there's a lot to like with his skill set, but you're not going to see a 30, 40 home run season with like 30, 40 steals either. He's never going to be a top 10 pick. This is kind of the upside that, we were all hoping for potentially, which was last year. I don't think it gets better than that.
Yeah, but I don't think there's anything wrong with the price.
No.
Actually, he's a big target of mine, especially because the outfield is so bad.
Yeah, I like him overall. I'm not saying I don't like him. I just think I just don't know if what he's done is going to necessarily repeat just from a durability sense. I'm more worried about the durability.
Are you drafting Manny Margot?
Hell yeah, I'll draft Manny Margot. He's it's funny. He's always somebody that's forgotten about. He went through the whole, a lot of the year last season, injured, but going into the year, I was really high on him going into 2022. He showed some really solid gains in terms of like his power profile, and we never really got to see it, come to fruition in 2022. I have my hopes up for this year that we'll be able to see it if we can just find some longer stretches of durability. I think he has the capability if he can just put it together for a season. He's never really had a full season, really since 2018 that he's been able to kind of hang his hat on. But I think he's capable of hitting 15 home runs and stealing 20 bags. And I mean, he's stolen 20 bags before, but I think he could be a 15-20 guy with, 280-ish average. That could be his upside as early as this year. He's the same age as Randy Arozarena. At some point, hopefully he could just kind of get durability together. But outside the top 300, I'm absolutely buying that.
Yeah, I honestly think he could be a 15-30 guy if
he could be. Yes,
was healthy. So I'm a big Margot guy as well. I think this is a great price on him as well, coming off of the injury plagued year. Harold Ramirez is annoying. Do we care about him in fantasy?
I do not. Okay. We can move on, honestly.
What about Jose Siri?
I try to make him insert thing in my mind. He's not though. It's tough. I mean, I think at the end of the day, like he's kind of like a quasi Kiermaier, just with less upside, actually.
Yeah. I mean, there's upside. He's got some pop, he's got some speed. But
Kiermaier had an upside too, though, back in the day.
That's
5-6 years ago. It was like, oh, okay, he had like that 2020 year, and it's like, okay, maybe he could do that again, and maybe series upside can be like 12 and 15. Well, he has more speed than I'm giving him credit for, but I mean 12 and 20 or something. But outside AL only, like as a fifth outfielder, I'm really not interested.
Yeah, the problem is like you can't steal bases if you're not on base, and
Correct.
You can't hit home runs if you don't make contact. And he doesn't get on base or make contact. He's a career 76% zone contact guy, a career 5.6% walk guy. Like that. Like I understand he's great defensively and stuff like that, but nah.
It always bewilders me, the guys that are so elite at tracking balls in the outfield, but they can't track a pitch going to their bat.
Yeah, well, it's coming at him a lot faster.
I guess
closer in the batter's box. I guess. Let's move on to starting pitching. Shane McClanahan is elite when he's healthy. Little concern about the health, though. Are you drafting him this year?
Not this season. I was big on him last year, and he was. I mean, if we didn't have Shane McClanahan last year, then there's zero chance that we make the playoffs. But I mean, we're hitting territory. He's never hit the 170-ish, pitch mark or innings pitch mark, and that's he started in the postseason as well. When it comes to his ratios, though, I mean, elite swing strike rate, his strikeout percentage overall is going to be continue to be of the elite class. He's a starting pitcher, like a top 10 starter in my mind whenever he's healthy. I do worry about when you talk about shoulder issues, which is what popped up last year. I'm pretty much I have my worry meter up when that scenario happens. And right now, I need to see him in spring and stuff. I mean, if I was drafting right now, I'm kind of throwing him away at the moment just because of his ADP. But if we get kind of closer to the season, he's starting to ramp things up and everything's looking good health wise, then obviously I'd be interested. But I'm telling you, shoulder issues, he's hitting high innings marks. I mean, I'm a little bit tentative.
Yeah, if I knew he was healthy, or if I really was 100% sure he was healthy coming into the season, he'd probably be my number 3 starting pitcher. I think he's that good.
Oh, yeah.
But I have him at 8 right now, which means I'm not out on him, but it just seems super unlikely I end up with him considering he's going as like a top 5 guy right now. So I'm probably going to miss out on him unless he looks really, really good and there are no issues in spring. But like you said, right now I'm probably staying away if I'm doing early drafts. Tyler Glasnow, I mean, are you drafting him? He's coming off of, this will be his first full season returning from Tommy John. He only threw 6.2 innings in 2022. He is a free agent, I believe, at the end of the year. So the Rays probably will let him just go. I'm super concerned. He's kind of on my do not draft list. Where are you at on Tyler Glasnow?
Kind of the same at this moment. It's, Glasnow's always been somebody that has really his best command has been shown with the Rays. With the Pirates, especially in the majors, like the command control was just all over the place. And then the Rays kind of were able to hone in on, his mechanics and really able to kind of get him to pitch downhill. And he was, obviously an elite starter for, stretches at a time. Going into this year, though, I just get really worried about, the walk rate and how that's going to go. Not just the walk rate, more so the commands. And, you saw last year when you watched him pitch, like his numbers were good in his very limited time. But when you watched him pitch, he was laboring his, first pitch strike rate while it was up. He was unable to really command his stuff as well as he has in the past. Maybe over a full off season that kind of comes around, but the innings, you don't see him. I mean, his highest innings, total with the Rays has been 120 in 2021. I don't see him eclipsing that this year. Even coming back from Tommy John, you're not going to throw 160, 170 innings. So, I mean, top 90 guy, I'm not. That's probably puts him in the starting pitcher 3-4 mix. I just don't think you'll be able to rely on him, versus some of the other guys that are available in that range. I can, kind of pull him up, but I just don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy who's never thrown 115 innings in a single major league season. What the projections having him like a 160, 170, like it just seems insane to me. He's coming, his first career back from Tommy John.
There's 7 innings last year. I mean, there's in the Rays, the Rays, like there's zero chance they're going to throw him out there 160 innings, especially if they're in the playoff chase. Like they're going to drop him down and have him either, do reliever for a month or two or whatever. The guys going around him too. I mean, George Kirby, Logan Gilbert.
I'll take all those guys.
Tristan McKenzie. Yeah,
taking all those guys over him. A guy I am taking out of the Rays, or actually 2 guys I'm taking out of the Rays rotation are both Drew Rasmussen and Zach Eflin. Rasmussen was a guy that was a little frustrating to roster last year because they would pull him early in starts, but by the end of the year, they were letting him go deep into games. And then Zach Eflin, I actually really like him as a signing, and I think he can be kind of a really underrated starter in fantasy this year. What are your thoughts on Rasmussen and Zach Eflin?
I'm pretty much, ditto on both of them. Rasmussen or whatever he'll be the higher price guy, but it's kind of deservingly so. I mean, the second half last year was able to bump his strikeout rate up and his swinging strike rate up. He had a little bit, slight adjustments to his pitch mix, but he was, base performance value wise on, HQ. I mean, he was a 130 BPV, which is stellar for a starting pitcher. 4% walk rate in the second half. That was backed by, great ratio metrics, a 3.48, expected ERA. But, which is a full run behind his 2.48, actual ERA in the second half. But a 3.48 expected ERA is showing that, he is earning what he's doing skills wise. I love him. I think Rasmussen is somebody that has kind of gone unheralded amongst, Rays fans as well. Just, somebody that's been really able to come in from a trade from Milwaukee, who was a reliever, and throw 150 innings, effective innings last year, and really kind of just supply the Rays with the ability to have some stability in the rotation a little bit. So I've overall been very, very happy with Rasmussen. I think that this year will kind of be no different. He'll end up being another. I don't know where he finished in the rankings last year, but he had to be in the top 60-ish starting pitchers, maybe even better. I foresee him doing the same thing this year. Eflin is a big buy for me because just the year prior, or maybe it was a couple years prior, he showed a lot of various improvements. And the injury history is lengthy. He's going to miss time this year. That's like almost a given. But the Rays are almost magicians when it comes to slight reclamation projects like this. Guys that are coming off down years that maybe for injury or maybe for not can, they just have found something in their pitch mix or in their abilities that they can, kind of, create a market efficiency for. And I think Eflin will definitely prove to be that. I don't think he's going to be somebody that will have like, a sub 4 ERA. I think it'll be, right around there, but the strikeout rate will be there. I think that there's a chance that, I don't think he hits the 160 innings that he hit in 2019, but if you get 130 innings out of him, 40 ERA with a decent whip and, good, ratios, I think that's a win, especially outside the top, 350 overall. So, I'm buying him to be like a back end starter for sure.
How legit is Jeffrey Springs?
He's legit, more legit than I initially thought. I thought it was kind of like a gimmick at the beginning of the year just to kind of get innings eaten, but he's legit. He's just somebody that his command is up there. I don't know where he is on the command race that, Saris puts out or anything like that, but he's able to put the ball wherever the hell he wants. He is effective with his offerings in terms of getting people to swing and miss. His ratios and all of his underlying metrics kind of echo the same sentiment. He was a double-digit earner overall last year. He threw almost 140 innings, in a 2.5 ERA. That was honestly impressive. And he had a 2.4 ERA with about the same, expected ERA in the second half as well. There was some slight drop, in the strikeout percentage overall, but overall, you're looking at like, a pretty league average-ish or above average strikeout rate, 25%-ish. That was backed by swinging strike rate. His home runs per 9 are not lethal. He does pretty well against righties. Last year he held righties to a 215 batting average. The year before, 190. The Rays, I think, have found a way to, get him to be effective against both sides of the plate. If you look prior, he allowed a 350 batting average to righties in 2020 and 260 in 2019. So the Rays have obviously found some things that they feel that, he could do fairly well and be successful at. And I think that continues. 180-ish. I think that Eflin has actually a little bit more upside start to start than Springs does, but I think Springs has a better opportunity to hit the 150, inning pitch mark as well. So, it's, if you want innings and length, I think Springs is the guy, but I think Eflin will probably be a little bit more effective start to start.
All right. Anybody else we should care about in terms of starting pitchers? Taj Bradley, Luis Patino.
Patino is really starting to piss me off. He just needs to stay on the field. And we just need to see a length of health. I think last year was really the year that they were right, putting him in position to, be successful. And then, of course he gets injured again. I think that as far as guys that you're going to see, in the starting rotation at some point this year, Patino will definitely get starts. If he's successful, then he'll get, he is a dart thrower that people should still invest at least something in, because he still has a chance to go and throw 100, 120 innings in the majors of effective ball. He just needs to kind of get there and find the consistency with that. Bradley, I think it's probably going to take a little bit of time. I don't think we may not see him at all this year. I would hope we do, but I don't think it'll be sooner. I think it'll be probably later in the year if we did. Yandy Diaz, we definitely will see. He could crack the rotation out of spring too. It's hard to say, but you're definitely going to see him this year. And Josh Fleming will, I'm sure, just like a bad decision from years and years prior, he'll come back and haunt you. So I'm sure Fleming will be back around at various points this year. Those are the guys I think you'll definitely see at some point. As far as other guys further away, I'm not really counting on that. But if I had to pick one, I'd say Patino is the guy that I would still at least keep an eye on and pray that he can just kind of get some consistency rolling.
Is there a closer?
I don't think so. This is not a bullpen you want. You want to invest in the bullpen in terms of skills and ratios and such. Fairbanks is stellar, especially when he's on. Sean Armstrong was stellar in his limited time last year, but those are all guys that you're talking just ratio options that can help you out like week in, week out, in deeper leagues and 15-team leagues. Fairbanks is a guy to grab. Jason Adam also had a pretty good stretch last year where he notched some saves. I think Clevenger goes in there and does kind of the was it Brooks Raley thing from last year where he'll probably get a couple saves. He'll probably he get a couple wins as well. As of right now, no, I don't think there's going to be one closer just like it is every year. It doesn't mean somebody can't emerge, but if it was going to be that person, it probably would be Pete Fairbanks or Adam. But I just think Fairbanks is the better pitcher in my eyes. So, but to answer your question, no.
All right. Yeah, I agree. Stay away from that bullpen as I always
Yeah,
do.
it's gonna be a shit show. I mean, as far as saves go.
Just one guy I forgot to mention kind of when we're talking infield, Kyle Manzardo. Does he make a debut at some point this year?
I've stopped trying to project any type of debut times for the Rays at this point because it's just really tough for me to gauge where they're gonna do that stuff. But I do think you should draft him at the back end of any draft just to, have that potential. I'm actually extremely high on him. He's somebody that I have in a few keeper leagues. I'm just trying to kind of bide my time with. We also didn't mention Josh Lowe. I do.
That was on
I
purpose.
do still. I'm sure it was. I still have some hope for him as well. I last year couldn't have gone worse. But there remains, a significant amount of upside with him as well. So, I mean, I wouldn't just completely and utterly dismiss him. So,
yeah, I mean, I'm not dismissing him, but he's so much like Jose Siri in terms of having power, having speed, and not being able to make contact. And the problem is his defense isn't that good. So his
defense was awful last year. They at least expected him to defend it. The Rays would not have started him in the majors if they didn't think at least he'd be able to defend, and then they could just kind of swallow the growing pains offensively. But he just didn't do both last year. I mean, last year was kind of like a just a gut punch to what the reality was in the majors for him, I think. But it doesn't mean, I mean, there has always been talent with him. So, I mean, I just don't think that's automatically just gone. I think there's a vast difference between him and Siri offensively. I mean,
there absolutely is. He's much more of like a Carlos Gomez type.
God, I miss that guy.
Yeah, which means he could have a legit top 2 round kind of fantasy season at some point in his career. But you got to make contact, and especially if you're on the Rays, you got to make contact.
Yeah, I do think Curtis Mead potentially makes a call up this year.
Ooh, that's a good one. I like that as well. Yeah. All right, Mike. Remind everybody where you can reach social media and plug anything you got going on.
At my corner, FWFB, and I remain pretty much semi-retired. Doesn't mean I don't talk to people. I'm just working, family, a 3-year-old. Nobody tells you about the terrible 2.5 to 3 range. There's
literally a term called terrible twos, dude.
I know it's terrible twos, but it wasn't the start of the 2-year-old. It was the second half. I love my son to death. There's days, man, where I question. What's going on.
Your decision making. Yeah. You can reach me on Twitter at Justin Mason FWFB. I'm writing daily at Fangraphs, doing these 30 team previews in 30 days. I am doing projections on Sleeper in the Bus, TGFBI podcast. That's going to do it for us. For Mike and myself, thank you for listening. Have a fantastic baseball offseason.